At dawn, the Pacific Ocean looked calm, almost peaceful, as if it had no idea what was about to unfold across its waters. The horizon glowed orange, the sky slowly waking up, and the deck of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Hamilton hummed quietly with the sound of engines, vibrations running through steel and into the boots of the crew. No one on board was relaxed, they had been tracking something for hours. Far beyond the naked eye, somewhere across the immense stretch of blue, a Cartel go-fast boat was moving at impossible speed, its engines roaring, pushing thousands of pounds of illicit cargo toward the American coastline. The Hamilton had intercepted dozens of such boats before, but intelligence said this one was different. This cartel boat wasn't just carrying drugs, it was transporting someone. A courier. A man with information the DEA had been trying to obtain for nearly 2 years. And that meant this mission wasn't just interdiction, it was capture. Chief Petty Officer Ramirez stood on the bridge, scanning radar screens, talking softly through his headset. Satellites had spotted the cartel craft slipping north from a hidden cove off Mexico just before midnight. With each update, the red blip on the radar grew clearer. The Coast Guard had one chance to stop them before they reached international waters where foreign complications could ruin everything. Down below, the boarding team prepared their gear, helmets tightened, vests secured, rifles checked, and adrenaline quietly building. They had done this before, but every mission carried the same weight. Out there on the sea, one mistake could be fatal. The Hamilton accelerated, cutting through waves, throwing water high into the air. The wind now screamed across the deck, and the ship tilted slightly as its speed increased. Ramirez received the latest intel. The cartel boat had shifted direction, almost as if it sensed something behind it. The cartel often used spotters, fishing vessels disguised as harmless boats, or even drones launched from shore. The Coast Guard wasn't sure how they always knew, but the cartel had a reputation for sensing danger before anyone else. Lieutenant Carter stepped onto the bridge, gripping a cup of black coffee that had long gone cold. His eyes were fixed on the radar. He didn't need to ask questions, the tension in the air told him everything. "They know we're coming," he muttered under his breath. "Or they think someone is." Out at sea, hundreds of miles away, the cartel boat sliced through the ocean like a bullet. It was long, narrow, and built for speed. The 3 outboard engines at its stern roared louder than thunder. And the men on board were no ordinary smugglers, they were trained, armed, and fully prepared to fight. Their boss, a ruthless cartel commander named El Tiburon, had ordered the courier delivered safely or not at all. Failure was not an option. The courier, a thin, nervous man named Ignacio, sat on a crate in the center of the boat, hands bound, constantly looking over his shoulder. He wasn't a loyal member, he was a former accountant for the cartel, someone who knew too much. And he planned to defect. The Coast Guard didn't know that part yet. Back on the Hamilton, the engines hit maximum thrust. The ship's loudspeaker blared instructions, calling the boarding team to final position. Petty Officer Brooks checked the .50 caliber machine gun at the bow, its massive barrel pointed toward the empty ocean ahead. The weapon wasn't for show, cartel boats often refused to stop. Some even fired back. The sun was now rising, casting sharp reflections across the water that made spotting anything difficult. Suddenly, the radar tech shouted, "Contact visual." Starboard side. Through binoculars, they could see it, a thin, white shape, cutting across the waves, leaving a foamy trail behind it. The cartel boat. It looked fast, dangerously fast. The Hamilton changed course sharply, tilting the deck and causing loose equipment to slide. Over the radio, the boarding team received the command they had been waiting for: prepare to launch the interceptor. The small, high-speed Coast Guard vessel waited at the stern ramp, its crew sitting in complete silence except for the pounding waves behind them. The Hamilton slowed just enough for the interceptor to deploy. In one smooth motion, the small boat splashed into the water and shot forward with immense power, its bow rising as it carved a path toward the fleeing cartel craft. The chase had begun. The cartel boat's engines roared even louder as the men on board spotted the Coast Guard interceptor closing in. One of the smugglers grabbed a radio, shouting in Spanish, "They found us. Increase speed." The captain nodded, pushing the throttle so hard the boat nearly lifted from the surface. Ignacio trembled, eyes wide. He knew what was coming. The cartel's last line of defense was desperation, and desperation meant violence. Back in the air, a Coast Guard helicopter approached the area, blades chopping the wind as it circled above. The crew inside had night vision cameras, long-range sensors, and the ability to direct the ships below. The pilot spoke calmly over the radio. "Target in sight. Interceptor closing fast." The cartel captain looked up at the helicopter hovering like a predator. He reached into a crate and pulled out something unexpected, an improvised launcher. The smugglers around him scrambled, panicking as the boat shook from their own speed. Ignacio shouted, "You'll kill us all." But the captain didn't care. He aimed the launcher upward toward the helicopter. The Coast Guard pilot immediately saw the movement. "They're arming something. Taking evasive," he yelled as he tilted the aircraft hard left. A projectile shot upward, spiraling unpredictably, passing beneath the helicopter. It fizzed out harmlessly, but the message was clear: the cartel was prepared to fight. On the interceptor, Officer Daniels gripped the rail as the boat slammed through waves. He lifted his loudhailer and called out, "U.S. Coast Guard. Stop your vessel now." The cartel boat ignored the command, swerving erratically. Daniels tried again, louder, "Stop your vessel. You are in violation of maritime law." Again, no response. The cartel captain reached for another launcher. The helicopter crew made the decision instantly: they would use the warning shots. The door gunner leaned out, the machine gun strapped into its mount. With 3 controlled bursts, he fired into the water ahead of the cartel boat, sending tall plumes of spray into the air. The cartel boat jumped violently from the shockwaves. Still, it didn't stop. The chase was now reaching its critical moment. The Coast Guard interceptor caught up, closing to within 40 yards. Daniels signaled his crew. They were going to attempt an aggressive intercept maneuver. They turned sharply, cutting into the cartel boat's path. The cartel smugglers panicked, swerving right, nearly capsizing as water splashed over their bow. Ignacio screamed as he felt the boat lift sideways. The Coast Guard helicopter dropped lower, loudspeaker echoing across the waves. "Cut your engines immediately." But the cartel captain was stubborn. Instead, he grabbed a rifle and fired toward the interceptor. The bullet zipped past Daniels, striking the water. Another shot ricocheted off the interceptor's hull. The Coast Guard had rules of engagement, and this crossed the line. Daniels shouted, "Returning fire, aim for engines only." His crew fired in precise bursts, sending rounds toward the rear of the cartel boat. Sparks flew as one of the engines coughed, smoke rising. The boat slowed slightly. Ignacio fell off the crate and crawled toward the smugglers. "Stop. They'll kill me if you don't stop," he yelled, but the captain pushed him aside. A single well-aimed shot struck the second engine. Smoke poured out, the sound changing from a roar to a choke. The cartel boat now had only one working engine, and the Coast Guard interceptor closed the gap swiftly. Seeing no escape, the cartel captain pulled out a pistol, intending to use Ignacio as a shield. But the smuggler beside him, terrified by the gunfire and smoke, grabbed the wheel and tried to steer away. Instead, the boat struck a wave at the wrong angle and spun violently. The interceptor seized the moment, pushing alongside the stalled vessel. Daniels yelled, "Board! Board! Board!" The Coast Guard team surged forward, rifles raised, boots slamming onto the fiberglass deck of the cartel boat. The smugglers dropped their weapons instantly, hands up, screaming in panic. The captain hesitated for a moment, pistol trembling in his hand, but when he saw the helicopter above aiming directly at him, he threw the weapon into the sea and fell to his knees. Ignacio collapsed in relief, tears mixing with seawater on his face. Daniels approached him cautiously. "Are you injured?" he asked. Ignacio shook his head. No, please, help me. I need protection. I have information they want to kill me for." Daniels glanced at the other officers. This was the courier. The one the DEA wanted. The one who could dismantle an entire drug network. Back on the Hamilton, the prisoners were secured, weapons collected, and the damaged cartel boat was set for towing. Ignacio was taken below deck for immediate medical check and questioning. As the sun climbed higher, the ship turned toward the nearest safe port. The adrenaline faded slowly, replaced by a quiet satisfaction. They had stopped the drugs, captured the smugglers, and retrieved the courier alive. Hours later, as the Hamilton pushed steadily through calm waters, Ignacio finally spoke. He revealed names, locations, offshore routes, and hidden warehouses. He spoke about corrupt officials, secret accounts, and upcoming shipments. Everything he knew was like gold to the DEA. Daniels listened, realizing that this operation might become one of the largest intelligence breakthroughs in recent Coast Guard history. But Ignacio also spoke about something else, something that unsettled everyone in the briefing room. He said the cartel had a new weapon coming. Something powerful, experimental, smuggled from overseas. Something designed to take down Coast Guard vessels with a single hit. No one on board knew if he was exaggerating or telling the truth. But as Daniels stared out at the open ocean, he felt a familiar sense of unease. Today they had won, but tomorrow the game could be different. Yet as the Hamilton continued its journey, one thing remained clear: the U.S. Coast Guard had once again risked everything to stop a threat that most people would never even hear about. Their mission never ended, their victories often silent, but out here on the open sea, they stood as the thin line between chaos and safety. And today, that line held strong.